Jon, before we get into specifics, and there are a lot of specifics we want to get into with this Timberwolves team, just paint the picture. What's it like to watch a couple of high-level games in the house that Steph Curry built?
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. I will say that, I've covered games, both Warrior games, both in San Francisco and in Oakland. There's a distinctly different vibe in San Francisco. Oakland was definitely a grittier, kind of louder, rowdier building. San Francisco and Chase Center is very, very nice. And you can definitely tell just how much it costs to get into that building because the crowd is slightly different. But there are a few spectacles in sports that are just more crazy to be a part of than when you see Steph light and fire like he was in the second game in San Francisco and hitting like that rainbow three at the end of the third quarter and things like that. It's an amazing, remarkable thing. So really enjoyed a full weekend in the Bay Area and going to those games and seeing the Wolves and Warriors play two really, really fun games was a good time.
All right, well, let's get into the specifics here. He's Jon Krawczynski. This is the Jon Krawczynski Show. This is our basketball show at TalkNorth.com. You should know the lineup by now. Russo, LaPanta, Randy Shaver, John Millay, Don Mitchell, Jeff Diamond, Jon Krawczynski, and myself on the Viking Update Show, Kevin Gore, the Bar Down Beauties, Roy Smalley, Lavelle Neal, and myself on the Chin Music Show, Mike Grimm on the Gophers, outdoor content. Check it all out. When you find a show you like, including this one, subscribe to your favorite podcast app. It's free. It's the easiest way to listen. We're coming to you today from the Aquarius Home Services Studios. We want to thank our many sponsors: Princeton's Liquors, TSR Injury Law, True Vision Institute, Head Flyer Brewing, and Shepherd Goods and Lamb Chops clothing line. All right, so I think one of the hardest things about analyzing the path that an NBA team is on is factoring in schedule. And I don't know whether their loss in the second game against Golden State was just a bad performance or whether it was a bad performance enabled by the fact that you had to play a proud team 2 times in 3 nights.
Yeah, I do think that it is a real challenge in these baseball type series to have back-to-back games against a good team, especially one, even though the Warriors, I think, are good but not a great team right now. I still think when you have Steph Curry and Draymond Green, two of the best, highest winners in the sport over the last generation, and you're playing a well-coached team in Steve Kerr, like they certainly did make adjustments from game 1 to game 2, and even within game 2 that exploited a few things that they probably would not have seen if it was just one and done. And so, whenever you go into these situations and, you're playing a good team back to back, it is really, really hard to sweep, when you're on the road. It's just always a tough thing. The Wolves were right in it the whole way. They led by 1 with 4.5 minutes to go or so after Ant hit that 3, and they didn't pull it out. Disappointing, Jim, because I do think like that was a very winnable game. And had they won it, had they found a way to grind that thing out and pull it out, I think it really could have been a nice springboard for them going forward here, and continuing that momentum. But it's not the worst thing in the world for you to go in there and compete and then lose that game. I mean, that's just kind of what happens in a long NBA season. I thought Rudy Gobert said it best after the game. He's just like, I don't necessarily like where we are in terms of our in terms of the standings, just given our record. But he said, I do really like the way that we are playing and the way that we've come together over the last week to 10 days. And so the vibe around the group is one that is feeling much better about itself, even after the loss on Sunday.
Yeah, all well said. Let's get to what I think is the most intriguing and possibly most concerning development, that Anthony Edwards played a horrifying fourth quarter in the second game. It looked like he was completely jacked up. He was celebrating like crazy. He was prancing up and down the court. For the first 3 quarters, he was playing a great all-around game for 3 quarters, and then he absolutely tanked in the fourth quarter. One of the many reasons they lost that game. Also, he's been fined $25,000 for cussing during interviews. He blew off reporters the other night. These aren't all the same, and they aren't the same level-sized concerns. But let's start with just that fourth quarter performance. I mean, do you just consider it a one-off and move on, or is there something to be concerned about there?
Well, I would say this is, I mean, the feeling that I got from Ant just watching him in that game, it was one of a 23-year-old rising star who very much wanted to knock Steph Curry out in his home court. And, kind of like topple one of the icons of this league. And so I think he got a little thirsty. He wanted to do it himself. And, so he was taking tough shots. And when he makes the three to put him up one in the fourth quarter and he's skipping down the court, at that point, I believe he was 10 for 13 from the field, 5 for 6 from three. He was like, he had a flamethrower going. He was shooting the ball well. He was clearly feeling it in the groove. And then he started to take tougher and tougher shots. He wanted to be the jaw dropper. He wanted to be the guy who just went viral with each highlight. And I do think that ambition blinded him in that game. And it was really disappointing because he played an almost perfect fourth quarter in game one of that series. And he was one of the biggest reasons that they pulled away and turned that into a blowout and forced Steve Kerr to just send in all of his backups for garbage time for a good bit of that quarter, because Ant did such a good job of feeling the double team, feeling them put two on the ball and getting off the ball, moving it, finding open people, and then picking the spots to go and get his own offense. And so we saw within, I don't know what it was, 48 hours, Ant play a perfect fourth quarter and then Ant play a terrible fourth quarter. I do think that it is a good reminder that even though he's in year 5, he's still 23 years old and he doesn't have the perfect answer for everything. And so there are going to be nights where he does veer from the game plan, where he does try to do too much. And he was in the locker room, and even though he didn't speak to us after the game, he was certainly having loud conversations with his teammates right around us that we were able to hear. And he was taking the blame. He understood that he messed things up there, which is good. But again, one of those things where it is disappointing because that game was winnable. And one of the things that Ant just needed to do was make the right play, just like he did the game prior. And, it didn't happen. One thing we can get into with that, Jim, is that the lineups were different that he was with out there. He played a lot of the fourth quarter with Julius Randle and Nickeil Alexander-Walker in game 2. And in game 1, it was Mike Conley and Naz Reid in those spots. And so that's something that Chris Finch has to find the right mix with as well to get to the right lineups that are, effective in moving the ball and make things a little bit easier on Ant so he doesn't necessarily feel the need to put everything on his shoulders. But yeah, for all in all, for a guy who is going to be your go-to player for the next decade, he's still got some more to learn in that regard.
Is it pretty obvious who Ant feels the most comfortable with overall?
Yeah, I think so. I think in fairness to Chris Finch, because if you're a fan, you're watching that game and you're saying, why isn't Conley on the floor? Why isn't Naz Reid on the floor? There were good reasons for his decisions. Number one, Nickeil Alexander-Walker was the reason that they got back into the game in the fourth quarter. He was hitting threes. He was going to the basket. He scored 10 points in the quarter. He was really feeling it, and he's very good defensively. And so, his burst that he gave them at the start of the fourth really did make it more of a game than it looked like it was going to be. And so Finch wanted to ride Nickeil over Mike Conley down the stretch. And so I understand why he did that. There's certainly an argument for putting Conley back in when Ant was really starting to press, just to get another organizer and a real quarterback back in there. But Finch stuck with Nickeil, but it is clear that Ant having Conley or a real point guard next to him, I think is kind of important for just the entire offense and to help Ant avoid just those takeover moments when he doesn't have it. He can try and shoot a couple of shots and go for it, but when you miss 2 or 3, that's when Mike Conley would make sure that, okay, you're not going 0 for 6 and down the stretch like you did in this game. We're going to find other ways. We're going to go to the Rudy Gobert pick and roll. We're going to do other things. The second part of that is Julius Randle finished the game over Naz Reid, and I think Ant does feel more comfortable playing with Naz Reid because Naz is more of a floor spacer and a quick decision maker. He moves the ball very quickly, and that is something that gets contagious within a 5-man lineup when Naz is out there distributing, making quick reads, driving, kicking, and knocking down open threes. Julius Randle is much more deliberate. Now, again, there was a reason for Julius Randle being out there. He had 11 rebounds in the game, and the Warriors were killing the Wolves on the glass in that game. And so I think Chris Finch chose to go with Julius Randle in part because he was rebounding the ball well and felt like Julius gave them a little bit better chance to end possessions than Naz Reid did. And also, Chris Finch finished with Naz Reid in game 1 and probably didn't want to go 2 games in a row without giving Randle a chance to close. But again, as the season goes along, those kind of politics and things I think are going to have to, kind of subside or be a secondary priority rather than a primary priority for this team. And he's just going to have to find the lineups that work the best. And I think it is clear that having Mike Conley next to Ant in the backcourt and having Naz Reid in the front court with Rudy Gobert is the optimal lineup configuration. And then you put Jaden in there, you put Nikhil in there, you put Dante DiVincenzo in there at the 3, any number of those guys to work around Ant, I think is going to be the more effective pairing than what we saw on Sunday.
Well, we'll have a lot to talk about if Julius Randle isn't playing in closeout situations after this trade. Let's get into a lot more, including Cat coming back. Do want to hear more about Princeton's Liquors.
Princeton's Liquors in Maple Grove. Bill Princeton, the Princeton family have been in the liquor business for decades and decades, going back to Prohibition practically. The Princeton family's been doing it. And you go in there for, this is the holiday times. You're looking for to get together for work gatherings or just family gatherings, and you want to bring maybe a unique craft beer. You want to bring a unique bourbon to the gathering. Then go to Princeton's Liquors. They have you covered. They have some of the best selections of bourbon and craft beer in the metro area. And you're always going to be able to find something that is in high demand, that might be a little bit rare, that you can wow your audience with a little bit, and just something new and completely different. They also have plenty of other wine, spirits, everything else you could look for, but craft beer and bourbon are their specialties. If you go to Princeton's Liquors, you're not going to be disappointed. Get a chance to grab something that will just raise some eyebrows when you walk in the door for your holiday gatherings, and tell them the Jon Krawczynski Show sent you. Princeton's Liquors in Maple Grove.
TSR Injury Law was one of our first sponsors on the show. They've been so loyal to us, so good to us over the years. We love having Steve on the show. We need to go out and see Steve at the Palatial Digs in Bloomington here sometime soon. Their business has grown exponentially since we started working with them, not because of us, but because they're very good at winning cases, and they will not charge you unless they win your case. So get on the same team as Naz Reid. Get on a winning team. Call 612-TSR-TIME if you are ever injured. 612-TSR-TIME. Another winning team John can vouch for, True Vision Institute.
That's right. True Vision Institute in Bloomington. And the good folks at True Vision have informed me that they have a giveaway for a free LASIK procedure this holiday season to one lucky winner, or it's a winner that you can gift it to a loved one. So if you go to True Vision Institute on Instagram or on Facebook, you can register for the giveaway, and it runs through December 20th. And I'm telling you, if you go on there, you get lucky this holiday season and you win LASIK surgery from True Vision, it will change your life just like it changed mine. I had LASIK surgery this summer. I cannot speak highly enough about what it's done for just my, convenience surrounding my life, traveling, just kind of going through the day to day without glasses and eye contacts it's been just a life changer for me. And I was just telling one of my friends, on the trip home from Golden State, this weekend, and she said, "Hey, this is the first time I've seen you without glasses since you got it." And I'm like, "Yeah, you if you're thinking about it, you have to go to True Vision Institute and check it out and give them a chance. Go through the consultation, talk to the good folks there, and see if LASIK surgery is right for you." So yeah, once again, if you are looking to win an unbelievable gift this holiday season, go to the True Vision Institute Facebook page or Instagram page between now and December 20th to register for a free LASIK surgery. You will not regret it. Go to True Vision Institute and good luck. Hopefully you have some, you get the great answers that you want, and you get a nice holiday gift of free LASIK surgery.
We'll get to the cat coming back in a bit. Just take us inside some minds, some psyches right now. How do you think in his heart Chris Finch is feeling about this team right now? And how do you think Julius Randle is feeling about being on this team right now?
Yeah, I mean, I will say in general, in the big picture, I do think that the team is in a fairly good place from a mental standpoint. That 4-game winning streak, I think, did a lot to sort of just calm some hearts and minds and really show that this team is capable of being a very good team, of playing great defense, of kind of making each other better. And Finch, I think, even through the struggles, was understanding that they have a very good team. It's just, how does he get to the rotations to make it happen? And I do think he's getting a better feel for what are the right lineup combinations, what are the right buttons to push, and how do they kind of keep going forward here. So in the beginning of the season, Jim, I think Finch was a little bit lost, like a little bit, searching for what is going to work. What are the right answers for this? And it was not easy. I think he's much closer to that feel now than he was. He is still working through things, but I will also tell you, there is no bigger believer in Julius Randle in this organization than Chris Finch. He really does think that Randle will help them and help them in a major way as he gets more comfortable with things. And that does bring us to Julius Randle. I know that in talking to him, both kind of just formally on the record and then just kind of in casual conversations in the locker room and things, he really does like it here. He likes his teammates. He has a good vibe with them. He feels like they have welcomed him into a situation where he's replacing a very big personality on the team and a very big part of the team in Karl Anthony Towns. And so he feels really good about that part of it, about the chemistry, about living in Minnesota. He and his wife just announced that they're having a baby girl that's going to be coming down the road here a little bit. So he's had a lot of family things going on that he's really excited about. And so that's all been very good. I do think, though, that he is still learning how to fit in on the court with this group in this system. This is a different defensive system than he's used to running. This is certainly, there's some different offensive elements that he's running with Ant by his side. And working with Rudy. And I think that is a work in progress that still has a long way to go. There are times in games where Julius Randle looks really good, where he is probing, he is finding open shooters, and then he is playing bully ball near the rim and scoring, and it's very effective. And then there are times where it's just he's turning the ball over. He is slow on defense. He is trying, he looks like he is still not sure where he is supposed to be. And so it's been a big adjustment with still some time to go there. And can they get to it? Yeah, they can figure things out to where Julius Randle is more consistently effective, but it hasn't been that way so far. And there are times where it's hard to watch. And then there are times where he does things at a high level. And so I think both Chris Finch and Julius Randle are still kind of searching for the most effective way to deploy him out there and get him at his best and have them helping the team to where he needs to, because they do need more out of him than they've gotten to this point.
Let's get to Cat's return. And I have a question about Dillingham's injury, of course. But first, what's going on with Head Flyer Brewing?
Head Flyer Brewing, Northeast Minneapolis, a perfect place to go for the holidays. They have a wide open tap room, as many of you saw when you came to watch the live show there just recently. Super open area, super friendly bartenders that are going to pour you great beers. And one of the great things about Head Flyer is you can take beer home with you after you stop in there. They have crowlers, they have growlers that you can fill with beer and bring with you. Bring again to holiday parties, do what you want with it, have it at home while you're watching a Timberwolves game later at night. And they also have a bunch of flat screen TVs at Head Flyer Brewing to watch the Wolves games, to watch hockey games, football games, whatever you're looking for on during the weekend or during night. Usually at night as well. They will stay open later when the Wolves are playing on the West Coast. So if you're looking for a little kind of solitude, get out of the house a little bit, go to Head Flyer, hang out with some Wolves fans, watch these games later at night, and have a great beer with it. So Head Flyer Brewing in Northeast Minneapolis, it's the place to go. Tell them the Jon Krawczynski Show sent you.
When you go there, you might want to wear something from Shepherd Goods and Lamb Chops clothing line.
Why not? sglambchops.com is the place to go to pick that stuff up. You can use the promo code JONK20 for 20% off anything you buy there. It's great casual wear. You get hoodies, sweatpants, shorts, t-shirts, hats, beanies, anything that you want that is super high quality, and it looks great, feels great when you're wearing it. I know that the stuff that I have from Shepherd Good and Lamb Chops clothing, it's really stylish. I feel good when I wear it. I also know that I'm going to have it for a very long time because it is super high quality stuff. You've seen the proprietors of of SG Lamb Chops. You've seen them courtside at Lynx and Timberwolves games. They are out in the community. They are super involved in the community locally here. We love that about them and being aligned with Lamb Chops clothing. And so it's always good to support a local company and business that invests in this community and is around all the time. So again, use your promo code JONK20 at sglambchops.com for 20% off anything there. Buy it for yourself, buy it for a loved one, for Christmas this year, and load up on SG Lamb Chops. It will make you look good and feel good the whole way through the winter.
Cat's coming back. What do you expect that scene to be like?
You know what, Jim? I think it's going to be fun because he is killing it in New York. He's playing very, very well. Just we're recording this on Tuesday. On Monday night, he was in Toronto. He hit the dagger 3 for the Knicks to beat the Raptors. This is another Knicks team that has kind of gone through some adjustments with the trade and figuring things out. But offensively, Cat has been phenomenal all season long. I think he's averaging over 25 and 13 rebounds a game. He's playing center, and doing everything that they need him to do that way. And I think that a lot of the Wolves fans who were on the trade Cat bandwagon for a long time here and maybe did not appreciate as much his talents are seeing what he brings to the table in a different light now. They're seeing the numbers that he's putting up with the Knicks and maybe gaining a greater appreciation for him. And so I do anticipate that when he comes to town next week, he's going to get a thunderous welcome home reception. I think that people understand that he very much loves this community, that he loved being a part of the Timberwolves organization, that he did not want to be traded. And so I think that some of the things that bothered them, fans about Cat over the years, maybe they have started to just think about in a different light now. And I think it's going to be emotional. It's going to be emotional for Cat, to be back here and to kind of see a lot of familiar faces and feel some of that. So all of that will be good. And it, it'll be a nice little bit of a way for fans to say thank you and even say goodbye for those who did not get to do that, because the trade happened so abruptly right before the season started. And it's going to be a hell of a game too. I think the Wolves are playing better now, and so it'll be very competitive. But it's going to be quite a scene. The December 19th is the day that they come back, and so a lot of people are looking forward to that.
What one of the many ways I gauge fan thoughts, reactions, emotions is by doing outstate radio hits and talking to hosts who are big fans but aren't necessarily going to all the games. And I just find it amazing. The same people who for years are saying, when are they going to trade Cat, are now like, God, should they have traded Cat?
Yep.
And the change was immediate and without reflection.
Yes, I've noticed the same exact thing. And, I heard through 9 years, I so often I would hear, John, you're not telling the real story about Cat. He's this, he's that. You're just you're looking past all of these things, and all he is a numbers guy, and look at how he complains to the refs, and why aren't you harder on him, and all these things. And I would just tell people that, look, he is a great offensive player. And when you put the right pieces around him, he can be a part of a winning team. I just firmly believe that the whole way through. And I was one of those people who looked at his first 6 years or so here, and you looked at all of the turnover in the front office, all of the turnover in the coaching staff, the teammates that he had around him, the dysfunction with Jimmy Butler, all of those things were not Cat's fault. And it was the organization's fault. Now, is Cat a perfect player? Absolutely not. He has things that will drive you crazy. There are some times in the playoffs where he hasn't been his best. He is not blameless in kind of some of the things that happened here during his watch. But by and large, I looked at an organization that was a complete dumpster fire around him for the majority of his time here. And once he got Anthony Edwards here with him, once he got Chris Finch and Tim Connolly around him, guess what happened? They started making the playoffs and then going deeper into the playoffs. And people just could not get past, some of their thoughts about Cat's personality, some of their thoughts about, just the aesthetics of him. And they let Jimmy Butler, frankly, cloud their judgment of him way too much. And it was completely unfair. And now that he is gone, and now that he is over doing nice things for the Knicks, by the way, everything he's done for the Knicks so far, he did while he was here. Everything. He's just on a really good team, and he's playing well. And so I think that there's maybe a little bit of a realization that, you know what, this guy was a good player. He did help this team a lot. He sacrificed a lot when Rudy Gobert was here. And by the way, he really loved being in Minnesota. And so I don't think people just looked at the whole picture with, real sober eyes and realized what they had. And so I do think that I've heard a lot of people say, yeah, boy, I gave him too much of a hard time when he was here. And so hey, whatever it takes to have that realization. But as someone who took a lot of heat over the years for the way that I covered him, it's been kind of nice to see hey, okay, now you're seeing what I saw on a daily basis. And so the tenor of the conversation around Cat has changed a lot from, oh, we can't win with this guy, get him out of here, to, man, we made the wrong trade. We traded the wrong person, or we traded for the wrong person. It's been eye-opening that way for sure.
It's also okay to come down with in the place where, hey, Cat shouldn't have been blamed for everything he's blamed for, and he's a heck of a player, and he's having a great year. And this trade also very well might work out.
Exactly. Yes. I mean, that is the other part about this that I think is important to reiterate right now, is that there are going to be a lot of teams over the next several years, as this new collective bargaining agreement gets its hooks into the league, that have to make similar decisions that the Timberwolves made. The Timberwolves did not want to just trade Cat away just because they didn't like him as a player. They traded him away in large part because they had to change their financial picture so they could operate within the rules of the collective bargaining agreement and continue to surround Anthony Edwards with talent for the next 5, 6, 7 years. And had they kept Cat, it would have been very difficult for them to do that. And so, and it is entirely possible that as this Wolves team comes together, they will be a very tough out in the playoffs as well. If you get on the right page with Julius Randle, you get this defense really starting to click in like it has lately. Dante DiVincenzo finds his shot a little bit more. They have the makings of a group that can win playoff series for sure. But they have to play better and they have to lock in that way. But, once again, like this was a scenario that was brought on by the collective bargaining agreement, and other teams, the Warriors and the Clippers, made similar moves this offseason. There will be more teams going forward, including the Boston Celtics, including other teams that are really expensive teams that will have to break their team up just so they can operate going forward. And so Wildcat kills it in New York. The one piece of context to remember about this is that the Wolves are looking at an easier time over the next several years of building around Anthony Edwards than they would have had they kept Cat and had they paid an exorbitant luxury tax and had limitations about the trades they could make, about the players they could sign going forward. That's just what the collective bargaining agreement is designed to do now, is distribute talent around the league. And it is doing that. And it just happens the Wolves are on the front end of that trend here.
Yes. All right. Let's table the Dillingham discussion. Obviously, we'll talk more about Cat next week before he comes back. But for right now, let's wrap up today's show with our Shepherd Goods and Lamb Chops clothing line Twitter question.
Yeah, there's a question from Tyler Walls, at Tyler Walls 14. What is the likelihood that Randle gets traded this year? Maybe I don't know ball, but I just don't see it. The offense is noticeably different without him in there, slowing everything down and being a ball stopper. Okay, so there's a chance that Julius Randle could be traded this year. He does have a player option for next summer that kind of leaves open sort of the long-term future for him in Minnesota or anywhere else. The Wolves cannot sign Julius Randle to an extension right now to address that. Just because of the trade, because of the way that his contract is structured, they will not be able to, kind of really talk about extending him until after the season is over. So they will have to make a decision that, in the next couple of months before the trade deadline in February about whether they see Julius Randle as a part of this team for the long haul or not. And they have two options then. They could trade him if they decide that he's not a part of it, or they could keep him and he could opt out of his deal. And then that just kind of lets him go that way as well. Or the third option, which still is very much in play here, is maybe Julius Randle just starts playing a lot better and figuring things out, and the team fits in around him and he fits in with the team, and they keep going with Julius Randle with the Timberwolves. I have said, as I said earlier in the show, Chris Finch really does believe in Julius Randle. He thinks that there is a player there that will help them end of game situations with his shot making, with his playmaking, that they believe that they can figure out the shortcomings defensively and how they can kind of utilize him better that way, and that he can be a real positive for this team. Finch coached him in New Orleans. He knows him well. And so the coach has his back in that regard. And if Chris Finch believes in you, you're going to get plenty of opportunities to play and play well in this system. So the good news is that they have 2 months to decide and to like really kind of look at how this comes along before they have to make a decision on trying to trade him or not. But to answer the question, there's a chance that he could go. There's also a chance he could say I'm not going to tell you what's definitely going to happen, because I don't think that there's a real plan yet for what's definitely going to happen. They just have to look at how this thing develops, and it could go either way. But yeah, that, I'll tell you, Dante DiVincenzo is not getting traded. Barring some crazy turn of events, his contract is too good. It's too team friendly, and he is a very good player that is still working to find his shot, but he will be around here. Julius Randle, I think that's still an open question. But with possibilities on both sides of the equation that are there to be had, and that will all play out here over the next 2 months.
And at some point in the future, we'll talk about if Julius Randle wasn't going to be here, either because the team's desires or his desires, what's now Reed's future? And is he a future starter? There are a lot of moving parts here. It's going to be fascinating to get into it all. Thanks to Shepherd Goods and Lamb Chops Clothing Line for the Twitter question. Thanks to all of our sponsors for the support. Thanks to all of our listeners. It's been a blast to build the show up, to work with Jon as he's built this into this juggernaut, bringing people out to live shows, getting to meet all of you. So thank you for everything. We appreciate it. It's going to be a fascinating season. Stick with us. We'll have a lot more good stuff here at TalkNorth.com.